Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick here with you as always. Thanks for joining us for episode number 115. Now, today is a little bit different than most of the reviews I put up here, mainly due to the contents left in the bottle. So, you can see that I've been working away at this one before I got to do this review. This is just for it being winter, for those cold nights. I ran through this Heritage Distilling's BSB 103 or Brown Sugar Bourbon. It's a flavored whiskey, so not the norm in the sense that I do flavored whiskeys pretty seldom, but also the fact that it's almost gone. So I was almost required to do this review lest I miss out on the opportunity to review something, which would be foolish. So Heritage Distilling, you may find that it's a little bit tough to get. It's a little bit easier for me to get because it's just up the road where I can grab a bottle out of one of its many locations. This one happens to be off the shelves of Roslyn. So what do we got going on here? Well, we've got a Mashbill, it's sort of a tongue twister, of corn, rye, malted barley. We don't know the exact ratio of that mash bill, and then aged in oak casks, obviously, for less than 2 years. Don't know exactly where it comes from, because if you look on the bottle itself, like many of their other products, we have a produced by, see if I can find it, produced and bottled by Heritage Distilling Company. So, as I've talked about a lot of times with the Irish whiskey sector, some of these up-and-coming companies that are still sourcing their whiskey before they can actually produce their own will put on the label that they are producing the whiskey. So that can sort of lead people down the wrong path to say that, oh, I love, the whiskey they're creating over there. It's so good, And then somebody who's probably watched this channel can say that, now, it doesn't mean that it's actually from them. It doesn't mean that it's not from them specifically, but produced by is sort of a fancy word to jump around the fact that more likely than not, they're not producing it themselves, and it probably came sourced from somewhere. I'm not sure. I can't even speculate as to where this one came from. So I've only discovered this being in the Pacific Northwest, getting a little bit more exposure to some of the things that are around here. But all that aside, we have 103, which translates, because I can't do math off the top of my head, to 51.5% ABV. So that's nice and lovely for you. They do have another version of this, just the Brown Sugar Bourbon. I forget what the proof is on it, but it's a lot less than 103. If you do go out there and you see these two bottles side to side, side by side, the price difference is like $15-20 depending on where you are. If you can, go for the 103. Like I always say, if you've got between one version of something and its friend that is just a different proof, and literally there's nothing else to decipher between the two, always opt for the one with higher proof. If you need to proof it down to something that's more palatable for your taste, that's what they created water for. Who knows? Not going to get into that. So anyway, looking at the color on here, this is a flavored whiskey, so nobody's expecting the pristine, very vague yellow, opulent glow. But this is a very heavy, rich, golden, sort of autumn, fall leaf color going on in there. First, right off the bat, you can guess from the title that the first thing that you're going to smell as you take a nose at this is the brown sugar. It's literally like they've taken a whole bag of brown sugar and literally just cooked it up and melted it down to a very lovely syrup with a bunch of butter mixed in there to give it a nice little syrupy texture in there. And you sort of just got this almost like this glaze that you can just sense being poured over a pastry or something like that. But it's just, that's what comes to the nose. That's that's the punchiest, most powerful thing. There's not a lot of nuance in it because of the amount of the brown sugar notes and cinnamon that are coming off of it. There's a slight hint of vanilla, but again, that's sort of leading into, what it actually is, which is this brown sugar concoction. I haven't seen anywhere, and I can't find on here, but other than brown sugar and cinnamon flavored whiskey. So I assume that they would just use the natural ingredients and not need to artificially flavor it in any way. It doesn't taste like it's artificially flavored, but again, without the actual details, I'm not sure. Hopefully somebody from there can chime in or comment on a little bit more information for you, which would be cool. But I'm probably 75% sure that they're using, local natural ingredients, because why not? But you'd think they'd market that if they did. So who knows, really. So let's go in for the taste. It's literally like you've gone and grabbed a couple packages of Pillsbury cinnamon rolls, popped them in the oven, and instead of cooking them too long to just completely burn, which is disgusting if you've ever had those, but just sort of melted down to this, you take a bite into it and you've already got the glaze on it, and it just sort of just melts in your mouth. Just absolutely, it's like, apart from that, if you were to take like pie a la mode, like apple pie, drizzle some caramel over it, a little brown sugar, you've got the big chunky Granny Smith apples in there that are coated with brown sugar, nutmeg, cinnamon, and a little bit of vanilla bean ice cream on the side. If you were to take all of that and melt it down and put a little bit of alcohol into it, some whiskey, this is what you would get. Stupid me, as usual, didn't buy more than one bottle. It's not that hard to find, so I'll easily go out and get more. But this is one you just want to stock up on it. If you're a person that loves that palate or types of flavors, this is definitely the one for you. Anytime when I was first getting into whiskey, and I would always read Whiskey Advocate in a bunch of different publications, reviews, blogs, all that sort of thing. And any time that somebody was like, oh, I get hints of brown sugar or cinnamon or vanilla or nutmeg or baked apple pie, I always tried to see if I could get those, or, how expensive they were going to be, to try to save up for it. But if you want to skip all of that and skip the price, because I think this is like $40, $45, which, it's a little bit up there, but comparatively, there's no other flavored whiskey out there that even comes close to touching this. Especially just the proof alone, having the 103, you're just good to go. This is, if you're out skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, doing something outside in the cold winter, even, whatever, outside working, you come home to this, just pour yourself one, it warms you up instantly. No need to turn on the heat, you don't need to pile on the layers. This will do all of it for you instantly, I guarantee it. In terms of the mouthfeel, you're getting sort of that reduction, the brown sugar and cinnamon buttery reduction going on. So it's almost like you can only taste the little cinnamon and sugar granules in there. It's got a really nice texture to it. It leaves a great aftertaste, which sort of, that's why in terms of the finish, I'm thinking that these are mostly natural, flavorings that are going on in there. So the actual brown sugar and cinnamon, because you don't get any weird sort of artificially awkward, strange, disgusting, medicinal aftertaste to it. It still holds true to that brown sugar and cinnamon note, which is phenomenal. there's not much left that can be said about this, other than if you're a fan of somebody, or if you are a fan, or somebody who is a fan of creating different cocktails and something like that, you might be able to think up something really interesting for this, because the higher proof, I think, is going to carry that flavor into whatever you're making. I know they've got some recipes up on, some cocktail recipes up on their site. They've just revamped the site not too long ago, so I got to check that out, get some more information on them. They've got a range of other whiskeys too, which are interesting to check out, but this one really sort of stands out for me. So if it's near you, or if you can get it, I'm not sure if they sell from their site or you can get it from another place shipped to your state. Depends on your regulations and whatnot. But give it a shot if you see it. And if you have had this, please let me know what you think of it, especially if you're somebody who dabbles in the other flavored whiskeys. So if you've got the Fireball or the different Jack Daniels flavored whiskey variants out there, let me know how it compares for you, because I think this just blows them out of the water. For what it is. So anyway, that's it for episode number 115. Hope we'll see you again next week. And as always, if you're going to drink responsibly. And we'll see you next time.